Hi everyone, Grandmaster Ben Finegold here. We're going to continue our travels back in the day to my first U.S. championship. Last video, I played Nick DeFermian in the U.S. championship in 1999, which was my second one in Salt Lake City. This is from Key West, Florida, 1994. Now, actually, in 1994, I was killing it. I was beating everybody. My rating was going up. Everything was great. I qualified by rating for the first time. And then the U.S. Championship, I got beat every game. Everybody beat me. It was the worst. In round one, I had forced checkmate against Larry Christensen. We were both in time trouble. This was with analog clocks, if you can believe that. So, well, we didn't lose on time, but when time control was reached, I was dead lost. Then in round two, in a drawn endgame against Yasser Seirawan, I lost in a bishop opposite color ending with rooks. So, yeah, I started 0-2 when I could have had more points. Then I was losing and drawing like I usually do. And it was round 11 of the tournament, which was 13 rounds, and I had white against Dmitry Gurevich, who was one of the lowest rated players, higher rated than me, but still. So I figured I had to win a game in the tournament, otherwise it'd be embarrassing. I did win in round three against Boris Kryman, who was the lowest rated player. He was the junior champion. That's how he qualified. So I did get more points than somebody, but I'm not sure who. Okay, so I'm white. Dmitry and I have played at least 10 times over the last 30 years, and a lot of them have been decisive. We've had very few draws. I think he has a plus score, but I think we've both won at least 3 or 4 games. Okay, so I played d4. Dmitry's played an opening I've never seen him play before or since. I'm sure he has, I just haven't seen it. He played the Dutch with f5. And normally, I was playing weird stuff against the Dutch, bishop g5, knight c3, whatever the weirdest move is. But actually, in 93 and 94, I was working with Gregory Kaidanov because I had the Sanford Fellowship. And in Kaidanov's opinion, you should just play regularly against the Dutch, the normal main lines, and you get a nice advantage. And since Kaidanov was at the tournament, I was like, all right, I better do what he says. So I played g3 and bishop g and c4 and bishop g2 and just the normal stuff. Okay, Dmitry decided to play the Stonewall, which I think is still one of the more popular lines, with c6 and d5. Okay, and since the dark squares are weak, all of the pawns for black are on white squares, obviously. White wants to play their bishop f4 or bishop g5. Sometimes he tries to trade his bishop off with b3, which is hard to do now because my knight's on c3. So instead of knight f3, I played knight h3, because then if he plays the active move, bishop d6, obviously bishop e7 would be more passive. Then I can try to trade the bishops, and I won't double my pawns, although there are games where white plays knight f3 and bishop f4 and then takes with a g-pawn. Okay, and also, if I want to play for e4 and I want to play f3, e4, well, my knight's not on f3. Okay, so knight h3 is sort of a normal move. Bishop d6, we both castled, and I play bishop f4. Of course, black doesn't want to trade those bishops because his remaining bishop isn't so good on c8. So he retreated his bishop, and the idea is he's going to try to attack my bishop and gain a tempo with the dangerous-looking moves h6, g5. Dangerous for both sides. Then my knight on h3 is weird. His king is a little exposed. He might mate me. Okay, so chess is fun. Okay, so I play queen b3, defending my c-pawn and putting some additional pressure here on his pawns, connecting my rooks. He played king h8, getting off of the diagonal of my queen. Seems probably unnecessary, but that's okay. Rook a d1, and he played the move a5. Now a5 is interesting because black has sort of a mini threat here. Let's pretend I don't move. Let's play, I don't know, king h1. a4, it looks like that hangs a pawn. Knight takes a4. Then he could take on c4, and I can't take back because of b5. I've seen these tricks in a lot of queen pawn openings. So after a4, it would probably be better not to take it and move my queen away, but then he's getting some space on the queen side, and my c-pawn, I could lose it. So a5 has sort of a mini threat of a4. I played c5, gaining some space and stopping a4. He played knight fd7, and the idea is you want to play for e5, and your knight has the a6 square, and you even could go to c7. You could play g5 because you've unleashed this queen and bishop on g5. So knight fd7 is a pretty interesting move. Okay, I played knight a4, clamping down on the queen side, g5. And I didn't want to lose my bishop, well, for nothing. I don't want to trade it for his knight on b8. That's not a very good knight right now. So I was wondering what to do with it. And, of course, I could play bishop d6, although I might lose my pawn on d6, after we trade. It seems like this pawn could be lost soon. So I played the kind of move I like to play. Bishop c1, always retreat. Now that my rook's not on a1, it's not trapped. My bishop's not blocking either one of my rooks. And I'm ready to play in the center with either f3, e4, or maybe f4. And I still have a big space advantage. Okay, bishop f6, f3, obviously to play e4. Well, the problem with playing e5 here for him is I could play e4, or I could even take on e5, and he can't take with the bishop because his bishop is defending g5. I have two of my guys attacking g5. So he could play e5, but it seems like my pieces are more ready to play than his. He hasn't moved any of these pieces yet on the queen side, so maybe opening the center isn't a good idea. Okay, he played h6, defending his pawn on g5, and I played e4. I was pretty happy with my position, although I could get overextended because that's what I do. He developed his knight with knight a6, the only place he could move it. I didn't want his knight ever to go to b4, so I played a3. And he played rook b8. I assumed he wanted to play either b6 or b5 and gain some space, attack my knight, open up the queen side. I moved my queen out of the way, and he played b5. Well, I could take on Passant, but I don't know. Then his pieces are getting pretty active, and I thought I had more space on the queen side, and I wanted to keep all these pieces here sort of trapped. So taking on b6 might be good tactically or not, but I played knight c3, keeping sort of a bind on the position. b4, went back to a4, and now he pushed his pawn backwards to b5, and we repeated and agreed to a draw. No, you can't do that, actually, because pawns don't go backwards. Okay, he traded on a3 and played the move knight c7. So now his rook's on a nice open b file. His knight has the b5 square, putting pressure on d4 and possibly a3. And his bishop has the a6 square attacking my rook. And one of the ideas for black is bishop a6 to c4. And if his bishop gets to b3, then I'm not going to be very happy. Okay, so knight c7 made a lot of sense. I played rook fe1 because I don't want bishop a6 to attack my rook. Bishop a6. And I followed one of my rules. I'm not sure I even had my rules in 1994, but I always play bishop f1 because I thought this bishop on a6, if it went to c4, that was going to be just too annoying. So bishop f1, we traded bishops. And now, I think after the game, he thought the game was reasonably played until here, and this is where he thought he started to go wrong. I think this is move 23, so we're starting to get into a little time trouble here. I think it was like 40 moves in 2 hours, and we're playing really slow, and then getting time trouble pretty early. And he traded on e4, opening up the center and the f-file, and that seems like it helped me more than it helped him. Probably just chilling out was a better idea. Okay, he played queen e8, and the idea is you want to play queen g6, pinning my pawn to my queen and defending his kingside more. So I played e5, gaining space, and I stopped queen g6 forever, or so I hope. He obviously saved his bishop. He played bishop d8. I guess the idea is if my knight ever goes to b6, he has some extra guys to handle it. I think that's a mistake. I think the bishop on d8 is bad because he's blocking his rook from the king side. So now I actually played well, and that really wasn't fair. I think Dmitry should have called the arbiter and said, look, Ben hasn't played a good move this tournament. Why is he playing well now? So it is really unfair when you're playing somebody who's not playing well in the tournament or just isn't strong in general, and they play a lot of good moves. That's the luck in chess. People say there's no luck in chess. I mean, if you played 20 pretty good moves and 30 blunders in a tournament, I mean, if one of your opponents faces 5 of your blunders and you don't blunder against another one of your opponents, that's just bad luck for one of them. You know, sometimes you play well by accident. Sometimes you're seeing stuff. Sometimes you're just not in the mood to play. And I played well this game, and I played aggressively, so that's just not fair. I mean, Dmitry should face the usual Ben Finegold where I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, so I played knight b6. The idea is I'm getting his pieces away from the king side, and it's pretty annoying to him. So I'm going to take control of the f-file because this rook is just cut off from the king side. I don't really care about the pawn. I care about attacking his king. So he traded on f1. I mean, if he doesn't trade on f1, I can trade on f8 and play rook f1. It could be the same kind of thing. He traded on b6, and he could take my pawn, but then I play queen b6, attacking his rook and threatening rook f8 check, which would win his queen. But that's okay. He can play knight b5, and all of my pawns are hanging. So now his bishop d8 looks pretty smart. See, bishop takes b6, and my d pawn's hanging. Unfortunately, although my pawns are weak over here, his king got nothing near it. You know, when I highlight all the squares near his king, there's no black pieces, and my queen's going in that direction, my bishop is, my knight is, and my rook is over there, then I have a good chance for attack. So the first thing I did was I closed down the queen's side so he had no counterplay. I defended my d pawn with bishop b2. He played the obvious bishop takes b6. And if you saw my video earlier, I'm going to say I put it up, well, I'm going to say 3 weeks ago, but it could have been 2 weeks ago. Then I'll get a lot of hate mail. I played this move against Yuri Balashov in my queen sacrifice video a few weeks ago. My queen was on a4, and I wanted my queen over to the king side, and I played queen d1. I'm sure you guys remember that video. Well, I did it again. In fact, I did it here first. This is 1994. I played queen d1. So not only am I defending my d pawn, now my queen has access to come over here to the king side later. Okay, and problem is, for him, if it's my move, I'm going to play a4, and it's not clear where his knight goes. The a7 square is terrible, and c7 would also be bad, blocking his bishop, and later I could play bishop a3, once again threatening rook f8 check. So he played bishop to d8 to defend his king side, and more importantly, a move I didn't mention, he wants to stop rook f6. In fact, it looks like queen g6 is a good move because the queen is defending his king, but that runs into rook f6, attacking everything. So bishop d8 actually makes sense because he's stopping rook to f6. I played a4, expecting knight c7, although, oh no, his pieces are all trapped on the queen side. He played knight a7, which I guess if he had a million moves in a row, he could come over and defend. I played bishop a3, threatening rook f8 check. Yeah, his extra pawn is meaningless, but his king position is not. And now the only way to really stop rook f8 is to play bishop e7. The problem is that gives away the f6 square, and it gives away the h5 square. So when I trade, I got all kinds of moves that look reasonable now. Rook f6, queen h5. So he's trading pieces, and he's stopping rook f8, but the attack is too strong. And you can see my pieces are all going to the king side, and this knight on a7 is just totally useless. I always tell my students, don't push all the pawns in front of your king. Well, this game, Dmitry pushed all of his pawns. So rook queen g4. And the idea behind queen g4 is if he plays rook f8, I can trade rooks and take his e-pawn. And the other idea is I thought if I played rook f6, which obviously is a good move also, he would probably play king g7 and defend his pawn on h6. But now when I play queen g4, king g7 isn't very good, although I'm going to play rook f6 next move. So he played king g7 anyway. But okay, this position's already losing because rook f6 is threatening both of his pawns, so there's no real defense to that. So he defended one of his pawns, but now he pins his own g-pawn, and finally my knight gets into the attack. Paul Morphy would be proud. I've been attacking with all of my pieces, and finally I use my knight. He can't take my knight. You can't allow knight h5 check, and you can't allow knight takes e6, but you can't stop them. And he's in terrible time trouble here. King h7, knight takes e6, rook g8, rook f6. And here he played the move rook g6, and he either resigned or his flag fell, I'm not sure. Obviously, queen f5 wins, knight f8 check wins, everything wins. Okay, if it's his move, maybe I'm winning. And his knight on a7 just isn't playing in the game. So that was a real bad mistake. I think he should have played knight c7, defending his e-pawn, so a lot of this bad stuff wouldn't have happened. Of course, if he doesn't play rook g6, I'm going to play either queen h5 or queen f5 or queen h3, and they all win, and I'm sure other moves win as well. So that was my best game from the 1994 U.S. Championship, and only my second win out of the 13-round tournament. Probably my worst tournament of the year, but I played 13 strong players, so I'm sure it was good for my chess. It was my first U.S. championship, and I must say Key West was quite nice. Good site for the U.S. championship. Well, like and subscribe here at my YouTube page. Go to the website of our chess center, the Atlanta Chess Center. Actually, it's called the Chess Club and Scholastic Center of Atlanta, but the website's easier to remember, atlchessclub.com. Even I can remember it. And look around our website, donate. Don't forget to come to Roswell, Georgia. Don't go to the wrong Roswell. We'll never see you again. And come visit our chess center when we open in the middle of September. This is Grandmaster Ben Finegold. Please like my Facebook and Twitter. Follow me. And in real life, don't follow me unless you really want to. If you're like walking around with a bag of money, then you can consider following me. All right, until next time, bye everyone.